Welcome to Tenacity with Sonia C, the podcast where entrepreneurs, founders, and ambitious professionals come to learn from those who have walked the path, navigating challenges and achieving success. Whether it's thriving in business, pivoting, scaling for growth, fundraising, or finding work-life balance, dealing with loneliness, adversity, or overcoming personal struggles. Our guests share the insights and strategies that have empowered them to level up. I'm your host, Sonia, and let's get started. My guest today is Jim Fielding. Jim, whose leadership legacy spans some of the world's most iconic brands like Disney, The Gap, 20th Century Fox, and whose message today is more personal than ever. Jim is not just a respected executive in retail and media. He's a best-selling author, advocate for DEI, and a passionate voice for authentic leadership. In his book, All Pride, No Ego, Jim shares lessons that go far beyond the boardroom, lessons about purpose, vulnerability, and building teams that actually work. Hi, Jim. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
Oh my gosh, I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. I'm excited to have you. I enjoy these episodes, having chats, so I'm excited to get into it and learn about you, what you do, and
Yeah,
everything that
I
you have to
love
share
it.
with my audience.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Okay, so let's start with this. When people hear your name, they often associate it with Disney, The Gap,
Mm,
and now your best-selling book, All
mm-hmm,
Pride, No Ego. But
mm-hmm.
how do you describe what drives you today?
I mean, this is such a great first question, by the way. What I'm focused on, um, I'm at the point in my life where I'm focused on helping others. That's what's driving me today. I'm in some people call it the give back phase of their career, right? And to me, my guiding words are authenticity, kindness, empathy, and support. And really that's the path I've been on the last 5 years. Is That's what drew me to coaching, that's what drew me to write the book, that's what drew me to speaking and doing, team facilitation and things that I do. And those are my filters. And if I feel, it's what you and I were talking about even before we started the episode, if I feel that I add value to a situation or someone's taking value from me being part of the situation, then I consider it a success. So they're really, really nice filters because I'm doing things because I have a passion for it and because I feel like I'm adding value. I don't ever want to feel like I'm doing something because I have to do it, if that makes sense, right? Like
Yeah,
it's
for
like I
sure.
have to do this. It's that I've been there. I mean, I spent a lot of my career doing things because I had to do it for my career. And now I'm just at a different point. I'm at a different stage.
Yeah, I mean, like your career is obviously impressive. You've done a lot. You've worked for some big companies, but I guess what you're saying is like you reach a certain point where you've done all the work, and now
Mm-hmm.
you feel good, and now you're
Yeah.
like, I'm still going to do work, but I want to do work that's giving back because it gives you some sort of fulfillment.
It is. It's a fulfillment. It's like it's a passion thing. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I write a lot about this Japanese term called ikigai, which is this intersection of four. It's basically a Venn diagram. It's the intersection
Mm-hmm.
of what you're good at, what you like doing, what the world needs, and what you can actually be compensated for. I mean, I like the Japanese
Okay.
because they have and ikigai is something that's really driving me because just because I was good at something, and this is kind of where I got at the end in my Hollywood career, I was really good at it and I could have done another big job in Hollywood. I was burnt out. I was tired. I had lost my spark. I had lost my passion. I had lost that joy part of ikigai. And
Mm-hmm.
that's really where I went off and did a lot of soul searching and self awareness and self reflection work to say, how do I want to spend my time now? And it's funny because I still bump into people. It's funny. The word I hate the most is that I'm retired. Like that freaks me out because basically people that knew me in Hollywood or knew me as Jim Disney or Jim Fox or Jim DreamWorks think I'm retired because I'm not working the way they knew me working.
Mm,
But I say to them, I'm working harder now than I ever have. I'm just working differently. And
yeah.
it's not as visible because now I'm a solopreneur and I'm posting on LinkedIn and I'm doing podcasts and I'm writing books, but it's not as visible as when you're a C-suite executive at Disney or a C-suite
Yeah,
executive at
for sure.
Fox. It's just different. It's, but it doesn't mean I'm retired. Like when they say that, I'm like, oh my God, no, I better post more. I better post
You're
more on
like, I'm not
LinkedIn.
ready. I'm not
I'm
ready.
not ready.
Not
I
going
don't
down
want,
yet.
yeah, I'm not done. I'm not done. I'm a lifelong learner and I'm constantly curious and I want to keep growing. So I
Hmm.
just don't want to be done.
I think that's great. And you know
Yeah.
what? You don't have to be done. If you feel like you
Mm,
still have more to do, then you should.
yeah,
Nobody
exactly.
says that we have to retire if we don't want to, right?
Right. I mean, you're in control of your destiny, basically,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So I'm enjoying it. I mean, every day it's very different than the way my corporate career was, obviously,
Hmm.
but I'm enjoying every
Awesome. So you've held leadership roles at iconic companies like Disney and
day.
20th
Mhm.
Century Fox. What's one behind the scenes experience or decision from that time that shaped the kind of leader you are now?
I mean, unfortunately, I think probably the biggest behind the scenes was, when I was at DreamWorks, we got bought by NBC Universal. Like I was on the receiving end twice of these huge mergers and acquisitions where I was the smaller company getting bought by the bigger company.
Mm,
And the DreamWorks NBC Universal acquisition was really, really challenging. And I learned a lot. That was the first time I'd ever been, quote, part of an acquired company. And
mm,
so then I went to Fox and I thought I was going to retire from 20th Century Fox because it was owned by the Murdoch family and it was a huge company. And the the Fox was an acquirer. They were never going to be acquired. So I thought, but then of course, who's bigger than Fox? Disney. And so Disney came in and bought Fox. And I was like, okay, I'm going to handle this differently this time. Like
mm-hmm,
yes, we're the smaller fish getting eaten by the bigger fish, but I remember all those emotions we went through the last time, and I am going to make this work better for my
mm,
team because
yeah,
it's a really hard feeling because jobs are going to be eliminated. There's going to be consolidation. There's going to be duplication. And I think one of the behind the scene things that nobody knows about, but I've talked about it more now, is my executive assistant, who was amazing, it was this guy named Dan Cotton, and I basically made an Excel spreadsheet. I mean, old fashioned Excel spreadsheet that had everybody who worked for me's name on it. And we basically had information about them on that Excel spreadsheet. And the most important column was, what did they want to do post acquisition? Did they want to go to Disney? Did they want a severance package? Did they want to stay? Because Fox was still going to exist. So there were some people that still wanted to stay at 20th Century Fox.
mm-hmm,
And over the 18 months of that acquisition, it was a very long acquisition that had to be approved by the government and the Federal Trade Commission and all of that. I met one on one minimum 3 times with everybody that worked on my team, and I was filling out that form. Now, they didn't really realize I was filling out that form, but for me, it was my memory keeper of my commitment to them was I was going to try and make as soft a landing as possible for the team. And why I was able to do that, Sonia, was I didn't care what was going to happen to me. I knew I was not going to have a job at Disney because
mm,
they didn't have a job at my level at Disney. So I knew that I was basically going to get a severance package. And I basically became like the HR department outplacement agency.
mm,
And I had 130 odd people on the team. And I just kept meeting with them regularly to keep the flow of communication going, but more importantly, to help them. And some people resigned before the merger was over because they found another job. But, I really did try. I tried to fulfill people's wishes. I tried
mm-hmm,
to, if they wanted to go to Disney, I worked really hard to get them placed at Disney. If they wanted, some people wanted the severance package. Some people wanted to go back to school. So I would
mm,
write letters of recommendation for them. Like I was really it was so clarifying because I wasn't focused on myself. Like I was focused on everybody else on the team.
Awesome. So can you tell me a little bit about your book, All Pride, No
Mhm.
Ego? What was your goal when you wrote it? And can you give us some context into
Sure.
what's in it?
Well, it's organized around, it's basically 10 chapters or 10 sections, and that each section is a life leadership lesson. And so the
Mm,
chapter starts out with what the life or leadership lesson is. And then there's personal and professional stories that support how I got to that leadership life lesson. And I really wrote it like it's dedicated to young managers and executives. And I say, especially those who feel like they don't fit in the world. Because as an out gay man, as you know, a member of a marginalized community, I think that I always was a little bit of a odd duck in the
mm,
corporate world. And I struggled with that a lot early in my career and feeling like I wasn't able to be myself and couldn't
mm,
really share my story. And it really is about my path to owning and accepting my authentic story. And then once I did that, I really started to perform better at work because I wasn't worried about like I wasn't kind of separating my personal and professional. I was just accepting all of me. And so like the life, like the first chapter, the first life lesson is control the controllable, but leave space for the possible. Lesson number 10 is authentic kindness is more important than being right or being first. And so um, when I wrote it, I thought if I can help younger people or people like myself, it's not like a manifesto. I'm not saying do this and this is how your
mm-hmm.
life will change, but it's like if you can take one or two good ideas away from either reading to the book or listening to the book, then I feel like, you know, it's been successful. And it's been so satisfying to be out on the road with the book tour and doing speaking opportunities to meet people who read it. And it's interesting what people take away. Some people like one
Mm,
chapter, some people like another chapter. Um, you know, people that have known me for a long time still learned, you know, because there was things they didn't know about me or they didn't know about my family or they didn't know about my philosophy. And then I've met so many incredible people on the road. And it just, the book really was a side hustle. I won't lie. It was like something I was doing on the side. And it then changed my entire life. From the book, I started speaking. Then I went back to school to get my coaching certificate. And then I started executive coaching people. All of that was spawned because the book got published and people liked it. It's crazy.
awesome. So you're also, on top of everything we've already discussed, you're also an angel investor
I
and
am.
advisor.
Yes.
Uh, when you're evaluating startups or founders, what are you looking for beyond the product?
Yeah. I mean, this is such a great question. And I'm so glad you asked for your listeners because I I'm an individual angel investor, but then I'm also an angel investor through some groups where I get like
Mm-hmm.
presentations with groups. And of course, you're looking for an idea, a service, a product that is unique and differentiated and has a story and seems to have an ability to either disrupt an existing market or
Mm-hmm.
create a new market. Yes,
Yeah.
that's the start. But what I tell people all the time, and I think you understand this, Sonia, from the work you do, you're also investing in the founder and the team, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that idea might morph two or three different times for very
Of
legitimate
course.
reasons, right? Because of
Yeah.
competition or because of research and development or because something doesn't work in testing. And I'm really looking for people who have the intelligence and the drive and the tenacity. I mean, to your point, I love that word. You use that word, right? And the persistence and the flexibility. Like, I'm like, are they nimble? Like, are they going to
Mm,
learn? And I always say, you'll understand this. I talk about it in the book. I love confidence. I abhor arrogance, right? Of course,
mm,
I'm investing in confidence, but if people are cocky, I am not going to invest in them because I've been there, done that. By the way, I've been around a long time. I was in Hollywood over 20 years. Like I've been there, done that, seen it all. I've been around some of the smartest people in the world and worked for some of the most amazing people in the world. I've always said I love confidence. I do not like arrogance. And so if I pick up in a pitch somebody being cocky or not resistant to feedback, they're most likely not going to get my investment. It doesn't mean they won't get
Yeah.
anybody's investment, but for me, I'm investing not only in the idea, I'm basically investing in the potential of that
Yeah.
leader, that founder, that team.
Well, I mean, that's going to be the person that is going to be running your
Responsible, right?
investment. Yeah. So I totally resonate with what you're saying because like sometimes I go into events and I'm there, I'm a two-time startup founder
Right.
and I'm there to give advice and someone's like, "Oh, can I like tell you my idea?" And and they'll do it and I'm like, "I'm sorry, I have no idea what you do." And they're like they
Yeah.
kind of give me this look and I'm like, it's very like, can you just
Yeah.
like give me like the simple
The
version of it?
elevator
Because
pitch,
the
100%.
elevator pitch, because they're going into like, they're not telling me what problem they're solving. They're
Yes.
telling me all the things that their application might do. And I'm like, I don't understand. Like, just tell me
Right.
the problem you're solving.
Right.
And they don't, a founder that like takes that well and like thinks about it and then stops and then like tries again, they're open to constructive
Yes.
criticism. But then
Yes.
there's the ones that give me dirty looks and they're like, my pitch is perfect. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
okay.
Right.
Yes.
Then like good luck with one of these other investors. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing. I mean, I think in the investing world, and you know this, Sonia, because you invest, but you've also been invested in. Like I've also learned sometimes that like no is a complete sentence. Like sometimes it just doesn't feel right. And I don't really owe anybody an explanation on why I'm
Yeah.
not investing in that. Like I never want to hurt
Yeah.
anybody's feelings. I'm always very cautious and try to be kind and do give feedback, but sometimes it's just not right. And many times it might just not be right for me, for my investment thesis or where I am
Yeah.
in my life, but I may know somebody. I'm really good about being a connector and I'll say, "Oh, it's not for me, but you should contact so and so or you should contact this investment, this angel group because they tend to invest in that." Right? Like
Yeah.
there's, as you know, there's people that specialize, and I guess I am kind of specialized. I'm invested in a lot of different kinds of things, but I am primarily, I would say, in the consumer space. So,
Hmm.
and I'm more in product and services than like software as service, right? I'm more
Yeah.
in, but I've invested in a wide variety of things. And by the way, I've had some things that have done amazing, and I've had some things that have gone bankrupt. I mean,
Yeah.
that's angel investing. So
So you're an angel investor.
I try to come in at the angel round or C round. I'm usually a pre, like I'm early. And I
Pre-seed.
also, yeah, I'm
Okay.
usually usually. Sometimes I come in at seed. Um, but I also like to work with founders who want not only my money, but want some advice, right?
Yeah.
Like that want
Mentorship.
mentorship or, little bits of guidance. It's not necessarily that I'm seeking quote a board
Hmm.
seat, but I'm not just a check writer, I guess is probably the best thing.
Yeah.
Like
So
I want to be involved.
yeah. So now that we're talking about investment,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
get this question a lot, and I've actually never brought it up on the show with any of
Sure.
my, and I've had a couple of investors, but I've never brought this up. So I really want to get into it. So
Yeah.
there's VCs and then there's angel investors.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us, like, I don't know, well, I'm sure people there's the
Yeah.
regular VCs that want you to have a certain amount of revenue or
Yes.
users.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about angel investors and what you're looking for in your investments?
Well,
Because there is a difference.
I think usually, and again, there's also some VCs that are angel VCs, right? So
Mm,
usually VCs, to your point, they want a certain amount of revenue and they want a certain amount of runway, and they, like you have to have a certain amount of traction already. I always think of angel as kind of the step after friends and family, right? There's like the kind of like there's your own funding that you put in yourself as a founder or a founding team, and then you usually go to friends and family. I always think of angel as like the next step,
yeah.
and I think angel investors, we do tend to have a pretty long time horizon, right?
Yeah.
Because we know that we're getting in really early, not necessarily for advantageous pricing or, to like control the cap table or anything like that.
Yeah.
But we know, I mean, like when I first started angel investing, I had people that mentored me on being an angel investor. And it was pretty much like we would talk about 7 to 10 years, right? Like you have to be willing to commit to something because it's where I think VC has a different time frame. Like a lot of
Yeah.
VCs are more 3 to 5 years. And I'm generalizing. There's lots of different kinds
Yeah.
of VCs. So it's something when I'm investing, I know I'm in it for the long haul, right? And I have a
Mhm.
certain amount of my investment money that I target for angel because it has different returns and different timelines, right? I also, I invest in stock market, I invest in bonds, I invest in different things. So each part of my portfolio, I try to keep a balanced portfolio. Like
Yeah.
I would never, and as I get older, to be honest, I think more about my angel portion because of that time frame thing,
Mm.
right? Like, so I may get a little bit tougher on my angel part now, and put more into bonds or stocks because of my time frame. But
Yeah.
that's, I
So
would
as
say, the difference between VC and
yeah,
angel.
as an angel investor, what are you looking for? Are you looking for a product that's already built, ready for market? Are you looking for something
Hmm.
that is not built yet? They're just at the idea stages, just so our audience can get an idea of like
I mean,
what goes through an
personally,
angel's mind.
yeah. Again, personally, me as an angel, I usually like to be able to touch something, right? So if it's a
Mm.
product, I usually like to know they have the supply chain at least started, right? And if it's a garment, or like I've invested in food companies, right? So I actually like to taste the food, right? Or you know what I mean? Like, and it's not that I personally have to like it, but I have to, because you want to know that the idea, that they have the ability to operationalize the idea, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
right? So somebody could come to me and say, "Oh, I think everybody should wear three-leg pants." I'm being facetious, right? But I'm like, I don't know what a three-leg pant is. Show me what, like show me what
Yeah.
it is. And I might even want to try it on because I'm like, I don't understand how, why would anybody wear a three-leg pant? Like, you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah. No, I do.
Or if they say, I have this new shoe that's a super comfort shoe and it's made out of 100% recyclable materials. Okay, that sounds like a really cool idea. I want to feel it, right?
Mm.
Does it feel nice? Is it comfortable? Like, can I put it on? Can I wear it all day? Um, I I think for me, I need a little bit of tangibility. There's other people who I know who will invest just on the idea, because
Yeah.
they think the idea is so compelling. For me, I'm a little bit more of a tangibility.
Got it.
And
Got
I
it.
also think that goes because I invest in like services too, like travel and hospitality. I also like, it's a sector that I like.
Mm.
So I want to know what's going to make this hotel different or this travel experience different. It
Right.
doesn't mean I have to go travel there. I want something beyond the pitch, I guess is what I'm saying.
Okay. Got it. Moving on to the next question.
Sure.
We're done with angel investment now.
Okay. All right.
You've worked across industries, retail, media, education, health. How has
Mhm.
the ability to pivot and cross-discipline fueled your career, and what can founders stuck in one lane learn from that?
Oh my gosh. You are such a good questioner, by the way. I think it's so important. And I spend a lot of time on college campuses with undergrads and graduates. And I tell people this all the time. Early in your career, do lateral moves. Get lateral. If you're in a corporate situation, or even if you're in like a startup, try to do marketing and finance and like get exposed to a lot of different
Mm,
aspects of the business. Because I think the danger, and I even felt myself in my career at points where you get kind of siloed or pigeonholed, and they're like, oh, he's a stores person or he's a merchant, or, and I'm like, no, no, no. I'm a critical thinker. Like, I'm a decision maker. I'm a leader. I should be able to do other things. And again, it goes back to what I said earlier. I'm constantly curious and a lifelong learner. I never really
mm,
wanted to be labeled as just one thing. And I think that's what helped me get to the C-suite and get to the president level and the CEO level is I had practical experience. Like in retail, I worked on the store side where I literally was visually merchandising stores and running stores and hiring store managers and doing loss prevention and all that. But then I also worked on the product development design side, and I worked on the marketing side. And so I was a well-rounded CEO. I had practical
mm-hmm.
experience in a lot of the aspects of running a specialty retail business. Same thing in media and entertainment. I kind of came in through retail and consumer products, but then I got experience in parks and resorts and theatrical. Like I even worked with the Broadway divisions. And so I learned about Broadway shows and merchandising Broadway shows and cruise lines. And so I was constantly pushing myself, even when I was already at the C-suite level, I was
Mm,
constantly pushing myself to learn new things because the reality is, I think anyone who's running a business, big, small, medium, corporate, not corporate, the world is changing so fast. The
yeah.
competition is changing, the consumer is changing. Look at what we're going through right now with tariffs and governmental changes and all that kind of stuff. You constantly have to be studying and be on top of your game and be like, how is this going to impact my business? Like, what
Yeah.
does it mean? It's not just a headline in my Apple News feed. Like, I really have to think about what does this mean for my business? And even now, as a coach and a speaker, when I see these headlines or these changes, I think, what does it mean for my clients? What does it
Mm,
mean for people that I'm speaking to? Like, how is this going to impact their job and their business?
yeah. I love what you just said because and I totally resonate with it because that's how I grew my career.
Mm-hmm.
When I got into tech, I knew nothing about tech. I had come from an accounting background in
Yeah.
manufacturing and operations and one thing that I think I did really, really well when I got into tech, I got into tech for accounting. I realized that I was an imposter and I was like, I didn't know
Yeah.
anything. But I think one of the skills I learned very early on was just to listen. So I just kept
Yes.
my head down and I started listening to the conversations around me and what people were doing. And then I started learning from that. And then I started engaging and asking questions.
Yeah.
But then the next thing that I did, years in, I saw opportunities. For example, when a project manager left, the company now needed time to hire someone new. But in the meantime, who's going to be managing that project? So I'd be like, well, like I don't know how to do project management, but like, hey, I'll
Yeah.
help
You'll
out.
raise your hand. Right. You'll raise your
Yeah,
hand.
and I did that with every single role in the company except
Right.
development, like physical
Yeah.
code development, because I'm not a
Right.
coder.
You're not
But
a
I did
coder.
that
Right.
with every single role. And when it
Mm-hmm.
came time to rebuild these startups that I had been part of from the original team, the founding
Mm-hmm.
team, and then the founding team left, and I was left alone with these products, I decided to rebuild them because we had built them with like all these chefs in the kitchen. And
Yeah.
now I had an opportunity to do it from scratch. And it was actually better for me to take them on myself and do it
Yes.
because I had learned from all these different roles. And no one, and the best part was that like no one could question whether I knew what I was doing or not because it was like,
Right.
oh, she's done that role. She did
Right.
that, right? So people actually like
Yeah.
respected the fact that I could speak the same language with a business analyst. I could sit down and write a document and explain exactly what I wanted. And I think it's really important to take the time to just learn the things that you don't know because
Yeah.
whether you're going to do them again or not, there might come a time where even if you're just in a conversation, someone's going to be like, yeah, that's not your expertise, but you know what you're talking about.
Well, I hope your listeners play that over and over and over again, Sonia, because you you're a sponge, which I say all the time to people, just listen and drink things in because you're in the middle of this company again. What size company? There's stuff going on all around you, and there's
Yeah.
people, and you've worked with people. There's people who just put on their blinders and don't pay attention and are so mono focused that they're missing the entire context of what's going on around them. You didn't.
Yeah.
I often tell people volunteer for special assignments. You did that, right? You see
Mhm.
an opportunity and it's like, hey, I'll help out for 6 weeks while you hire a person. And the other thing we always said in corporate, particularly a big corporate, is we're like, do the job you want to do before you ever get that job, right? Like, and
Yes.
that's how you earn it. The other thing is, which you're saying the same thing I said, and I said earlier about lateral moves, not every move in my career meant more responsibility and more money. There's a lot of
Yeah.
time people are like, oh, I want the bigger job because I want to manage people, or I want more money, or I want more perks, or I want more title. To this day, listen, I was a CEO, I was a president. I am not title driven. In fact,
Mm.
my title at DreamWorks was head of, global head of. That's a horrible title, but it didn't matter because I knew what I was doing and I could tell the story of what I was doing. I wasn't always hung up on title. And I think early in our careers, you've got to get over that. You got to get over title.
Yeah.
You got to get over I need to get moved up. I need to move up 2 levels and start managing people. And I need these certain benefits or these certain perks. And especially, like I said, early. So say your 20s and your early 30s, expose yourself because
Yeah.
there is a point where you will become more of a specialist. I mean, that's nature. At some point, you're probably going to be more project management or marketing or product development or at
Yeah.
some point. But early, you shouldn't be, and I tell I mean, graduates this all the
Who want
time.
to be directors within like a year of
Yeah, and it's like,
graduating,
yeah, and
and they
it's
don't
like,
want to
and
do the
I,
work.
right, I want to be, and like, and it's always nice when somebody says, "Oh, I want your career." I'm like, that's so nice, but by the way, you realize I'm 30 years older than you are, right? So
Yeah, it's
it's
gonna
not
take
like
time.
you have to go back and say, "What were you doing when you were 22, Jim, and when you were 23 and 25?" Because it's very different. And by the way, the world that I was in, I started working in the 80s. Now it's the middle 2020s and we've got AI and we've got all this tech and we've got, I mean, there's jobs, this, I tell people this all the time. There's jobs that are invented every day that I've never even heard of, right? Like I'll see a job posting, I'll be like, what is that? Like, what is that? Or somebody will send me a job and say, do you have anybody for this? And I'm like, I don't even understand what this job is, but okay, like, and I think
Yeah.
particularly like in tech, and in marketing and in social media, marketing probably for retail and media has been the function that's changed the most in the last 10 or 15 years. I mean, just
Yeah.
how we market because of TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and
Yeah.
LinkedIn, because of social media.
You just touched on something that I want to get
Yeah.
into a little bit. So, you said title doesn't matter. I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Sometimes titles actually mean misrepresentation, and people will
Yes.
think you're something and have expectations just because of that
Mm-hmm.
title. But also, let's talk about authenticity, right? Like
Yes.
personal branding right now is a
Mm-hmm.
major thing. So for the generation that doesn't understand, like you and I, we
Yeah.
started from the bottom and we've
Worked
done
our
the
way
work
up.
and we've
Yeah.
learned, but we've learned along the way. Like, can you be a manager within a year of starting your career? I say no because, and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people will say yes, but here's the thing, like I'll say no because it's not just about being really good at your job. A manager also requires HR skills, how to talk to people.
Mm-hmm.
You can get into a lot of trouble. So there's like,
Mm-hmm.
there's certain
There's things you
skills
need to learn.
that
Yeah.
you need to know. So for people who are trying to fast track that a little bit, and
Mm-hmm.
now all of a sudden, let's say they're 5 years from school and they become a CEO because
Yeah.
they'll start their own company or they'll go
Yeah.
somewhere and they're automatically directors or CEOs. Like if when they get to the point where they need to build a personal brand, because that's a big thing now, how are they going to do that if they haven't had the time to learn all of the stuff and
Mm-hmm.
have almost sort of like shortcutted their way into those
No,
positions?
I think you bring up a really, really good point because I do think, I mean, that's part of what's going on in the world right now and with entrepreneurialism is there's a lot of people who are like, I'm not finding it in the current corporate structures or the system, so I'm just going to go build it on my own. But
Hmm.
having advised a lot of founders and young entrepreneurs, everybody hits a wall at some point where they realize I do not have the skills to be successful, right? And so again,
Yeah.
it kind of goes back to my I love confidence, I hate arrogance. It's to me, authenticity and knowing yourself and vulnerability are all tied into it, right? And I think
Hmm.
as a young, it's great to be ambitious and driven. I'm ambitious and driven. And it's great to say, I want to be running my own thing by the time I'm 30. But what's a huge component of that is also being not afraid to ask for help and not afraid to say, you know what, I'm in over my skis here. I've got 10 employees now and I'm not leading them well and I'm not building the kind of culture I wanted to build. I need some help. And that's where, whether it's your angel investors or your board of directors, one of the things I talk a lot about is having a personal board of advisors and that you
Hmm.
have a group of people who are your truth tellers. They're not compensated. They don't own stock in your company. They're basically invested in helping you be the best version of yourself. And I always talk about having 4 or 5 people that are your go-to people. And I actually did a post about this where I say like go for like the industry. One of them can be an industry veteran, right? Somebody who you really respect, who's almost more like a mentor, who's farther ahead in their career than you.
Mm-hmm.
Then have your truth teller, that person who is just going to be like, Jim, you screwed up, and here's how you screwed up, and let me tell you how to fix it. And then have a peer, like somebody who you really respect, who's at your same level, that you can like go into a room and shut the door with and be like, I'm overwhelmed, I'm scared, I made a mistake, help me fix this. Like, and and again, they're not your board of directors. It's not business. They're
Mm-hmm.
like your personal board of advisors. And I have mine. I have mine to this day. These 4 or 5, 6 people that I just count on that I'm still using today. Like when I decided to make the pivot away from corporate and write the book and, go back to school for coaching, where I was calling them and saying, do you think, is this weird? Is what I'm doing
Yeah.
weird? Is it weird to be walking away? For me, one of them happens to be my sister because she's the ultimate truth teller and she's been with me on this whole path. It does not have to be a
Right.
relative. But also, I have the person who was the head of HR for me at Disney Store, who we're now friends. We're officially friends. We work together. We've been friends now for over 20, 25 years. He's an incredible HR person, and he's British. He lives in London. But whenever I have an HR thing, I call him
Mm-hmm.
always. So I just think it's so important. And to think about that early in your career, like who is your board of advisors? Like who are your kind of ride or die truth tellers who are going to help you? Because you're going to need help. Like that's the
Yeah.
thing. None of us have all the answers. None of us.
No.
I mean, I know there's a lot of people out there right now. Like, listen, I got to know Steve Jobs, thank God, before he passed away. Steve Jobs didn't have all the answers. There's some brilliant people in the world, Bob Iger, Elon
Yeah.
Musk. There's smart, smart people out there, but they have people around them that are helping them. I don't know
Yeah.
anybody that has done this 100% on their own.
It's so interesting. On the weekend, I was listening to a podcast, and it was something about public speaking. And then as I got into it, it was actually a acting coach that was the
Mm,
guest, and he was talking about how he spent most of his career coaching big actors, Leonardo
mm-hmm.
DiCaprio, all those names, and now he spends most of his time coaching public speakers. And
Yeah,
I just thought it was kind of interesting. And listening to him, he said, Leonardo DiCaprio, as an example, has a coach.
yeah.
He's won all these awards. He's really good. And he's like, and what you see about these actors who have won Academy Awards, he's like Al Pacino. The man still has an acting coach today. And
Mm-hmm.
the one thing that you always see them when they're finished a performance is they'll go to someone, we're like, what'd you think of that?
Yes.
What could I do
Constantly
different? They'll
seeking
go to him,
feedback.
if
Yes.
he's on set, they're like, could I have done something different?
Mm-hmm.
They're always wanting to learn
Yes.
from the moment, right? And
Yes.
and one of the things that he said that I was like, wow, which is what you just said. He's like, I have a coach, I have a mentor. Now,
Totally.
they might not know that they're my coach or my mentor,
Yeah.
but they are. So it's
Yeah.
not like you have to go out and be like,
Yeah,
be
it's not
my
super
coach and
formal.
sign a
Yeah, it's not
contract,
super
right?
formal. No, I agree. It's more informal. But I think, again, it goes back to having that vulnerability and that self confidence to be like admitting when you
I
want,
need help.
I need help, and always seeking and being open to feedback, again, which goes back to
Yeah.
that humility, right? And nobody is perfect. And that's the thing. I working in Hollywood all those years, I met I met Oscar winning actors, directors, filmmakers, incredible executives. I can tell you the ones who resonated the most with me were honestly the most humble. Were
Yeah.
ones who were like and constantly working on their craft and wanting to be better and would stretch themselves and say, I'm going to go do a Broadway show because I'm going to try and do this 8 times a week.
Yeah.
I'm a television star, or I'm a movie star, but I want to go do a Broadway show because that's the truest form of acting. And an animated filmmaker who wanted to try and make a live action film, or vice versa, like a live action person who wanted to make an animated film. Those people I
Yeah.
found the most fascinating. Um, and and who were not afraid to say, I'm talented, I have an idea, but I'm not the only one with an idea. Like,
Yeah.
and I need help. I mean, I those are the people that I will remember forever.
Yeah, you know what? Like being humble also means that you're willing to learn and grow. And
Mhm.
listen, you don't know what you don't know, and what you don't know, someone else does. So
Yeah,
you
and
can
again,
learn from those people.
the world is changing so fast. I think it would be impossible to stay on top of everything. Like,
Yeah.
and so when someone calls and talks to me and says, "Oh, have you seen this new AI tool or have you seen this new website?" I'm like, "Tell me about it," right? Because
Yeah.
no, I probably haven't. You know?
Yeah, no, I agree. So let since we're talking about founders and
Yeah.
struggles, a lot of founders often struggle with not knowing when to let go or step back. I see this
Hmm.
every
Oh,
day, and
yeah.
I call it a little bit of stubbornness. But
Yeah.
what advice do you have on balancing ego and mission, especially
Hmm.
when it's your company and your vision?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is about, the time of my book, I'll Pride No Ego. People are like, of course you have ego. Of course I have ego. It's really about controlling your ego, is really what I
Yeah.
talk about in the book. Um, and again, I think most companies I've seen and founders get to a tipping point where it's either scaling faster than they're capable of, or it's not scaling the way that it should be. And there's something that's holding the company or the idea back. And again, I think there's a lot of talented people in the world, and I think a founder needs to be, my first lesson, control the controllable. It's like, if it's time to hand your baby off, if it's time
Yeah.
to hand your idea off. And by the way, I don't think you have to hand off and walk away. There's many mechanisms, right? You can become the executive chairman or the chairman of the board, or you can be the CEO, but you're going to go out and hire a president or a COO. There's so many
Yeah.
different structures. There's so many different. It's not black or white, I guess is what I'm saying. It's not like a light switch where you're like,
Hmm.
this has been my business for 15 years and now I'm walking away. That's not what it is.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of successful advisors and coaches and um, executive firms that can help you assess where you are as a company and what do you need, right? And I think, but
Mm.
the first thing, and I've said it several times in this conversation, it goes back to self-awareness. Like, your gut will start to tell you when it's time. It really
Yeah.
will. Like, you really, that little inner voice, that little, mind's, I call mine Jiminy Cricket, that sits on your shoulder. You're
Jiminy
gonna
Cricket.
you're gonna start to hear like, maybe it's time, right? And
Yeah.
maybe and when you start to look at like your work life balance and maybe your quality of life, and maybe you're married now and maybe you have kids, or maybe you haven't seen your family in a while, like, there's going to be hints.
Yeah.
It's not like you're just going to wake up one day and be like, oh, it's over and I need to find somebody. It's going to come on over time. It's, again, are you listening? Are you listening to yourself? Are you listening? Are you aware of what's going on around you? Are you present?
Yeah.
Because your business is going to give you hints and the people around you are going to give you hints.
Yeah.
And then you have choices, because there's multiple ways for a founder to exit with grace and with
Yeah.
control. There's multiple ways. And you don't have to fully exit. I've said that to so
Yeah.
many founders.
Yeah.
But I've also said, as an investor and as an advisor, I've said to founders, you need to bring somebody in. I really think you need to think
You
about
hit that
this.
point. Yeah.
And
And I think
it doesn't mean you're a bad
yeah.
person.
No, it means you need to bring someone in to help you because you've hit a
Totally.
plateau. You know, it's like
Yeah.
I'm trying to build like the personal branding thing now, and I
Yeah.
actually have a coach, and one of the things they told me was, you know, you have to be doing a lot more on social media. And I'm like,
Yes.
I struggle with that because I'm shy. I'm camera shy, and now I'm
Yes.
gonna make myself vulnerable and I'm gonna be out there. And my coach was like, really, Sonia? You're already doing that with your podcast. You're having conversations, you're on camera. And they're like, really? And I'm like, and I couldn't distinguish the difference between the two. So
Yeah.
he actually gave me some really good advice. He was like,
Mm.
what you should do on weekends or in the evenings, take an acting class. They're like, there's
Mm.
something about you right now. They're like, I'm having this conversation with you and you seem very outgoing, like you're an extrovert, but I'm actually an
Hmm.
introvert. And I think that's part of the
Yeah.
problem, right? So when I get in my head about something that I'm going to be vulnerable and
Yeah.
people are going to make fun of me. So he's
Yeah.
like, go take an acting class. So I started taking an acting class and I learned that
Yes.
I can be a character when I'm doing these things,
Yes.
right? And it's just like
Yes.
build a
This is so
character,
exciting.
right? And like just build a character and be that character when you're doing it, and then go
Totally.
back into your normal self. But also in doing that, it's helped me like come out of my bubble a little bit and be more,
Yeah.
okay, I'm
Oh my
gonna
God,
do
that was
it.
such good advice. Again, I hope everybody's listening. No, it's so funny you say that because I learned a new word like 6 months ago. I'm an ambivert. I'm an introverted extrovert. Everybody thinks I'm like 100% extrovert. People who know me actually know I need my introvert time. Like I need to recharge my
Yeah.
batteries and I love my alone time. And I
I'm
found
like
out
that too.
there's a word called ambivert. Like, and that's what I am. I'm an introverted extrovert or an extroverted introvert. Like, you can switch it
Hmm.
either way. But uh and I love that. And I often said, especially when I was working at Disney, like the land of storytelling and DreamWorks, when I would have to give speeches to 100 people or 1,200 people, it is like being an actor. Like you're preparing backstage and you're rehearsing and you're playing a part. And to your point, I was playing Jim, president of Disney Store.
Yeah.
Jim, now appearing as Jim, global head of DreamWorks. Like it was a part. And I thought about what I was wearing and I thought about what my speech was and what my big three things were. That's like preparing like an actor. I think that was excellent advice he gave you, or she gave,
Yeah, I love
whoever gave you.
I thought it was great too. And I'm
Yeah.
practicing. I'm getting better.
Improv,
So,
I mean, improv classes too, besides acting
yeah.
classes, but just improv classes are also really good because that's about like thinking on your feet and being nimble and
Yeah.
flexible.
And I think improv is fantastic for anybody because like you said, it can put you in so many different scenarios that will
Hmm.
help you.
Decision making for sure.
Yeah. Well, we're coming up on time, but before
Sure.
we wrap up, I want to ask you one last question.
Sure.
Was there a moment in your career when you got it wrong, a big
Oh,
miss or a failure that later became one of your most important lessons? And can you share that with us?
100%. I mean, and I write about it in the book. I worked at Disney for 12 years. I was the last 4 years I was president of Disney Store. I had a unique situation at Disney because for 11 years I had the same boss, which is so unheard of. It was a gentleman named Andy Mooney, who's still one of my mentors today. He was an incredible boss for me. He left the company. I got a new boss. That new boss and I did not do well.
Hmm.
So unwell that even though it was the favorite job I ever had, it became painfully obvious that I had to leave. Um, and and I did. I started interviewing. I worked with my executive coach, and that's ultimately when I left to become the CEO of Claire's. The
Hmm.
mistake I made, the regret I have, is, and I try not to live with regrets, but I didn't get an exit interview with that boss, and I should have demanded for that. I got an exit interview, ironically, with HR and with Bob Iger, who was the CEO of the entire company, which is so bizarre that I got an hour with him, who was amazing. I should have requested or mandated that I wanted an exit interview with that boss, even though it would
Hmm.
have been painful. I did, because what I'm saying to your listeners is I didn't have closure. And
Ah.
I think since that time, it's a person who's still in the industry. We kind of slide past each other. It's just awkward. It
Hmm.
and I've been gone. I mean, this was 2012 when I left. So now we're in 2025 and it's still awkward. And I should have pushed for it. First off, he should have pushed for it. Like it was ridiculous that we didn't do an exit interview. But as the employee who had resigned, I should have said, even if I had 15 minutes with him,
Yeah.
that is one lesson I wish I had.
Well, we've come up on time, Jim. This
Thank
was
you
so
so
fun.
much.
I really enjoyed our conversation.
Me
It's not,
too.
I always like to bring on different people from
Mhm.
different worlds because we're all here to learn, right?
Yeah, for sure.
One in this wonderful journey that we're on. So I really appreciate you being open to sharing and making yourself
Sure.
vulnerable as well.
Of course. No, I so appreciate your interest. I love what you do. And, I hope everybody that listens or watches takes something away from it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank Jim for joining me today. What a powerful conversation. Jim reminded us that leadership isn't just about titles or resumes, it's about showing up with purpose, leading with values, and having the courage to grow even when it's uncomfortable. And that's a wrap. To our listeners, thank you for joining me on this journey of learning, growth, and inspiration. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite platform and connect with our community on social media. I'd love to hear your feedback, so leave a review and let me know what topics you'd want to explore in future episodes. Remember, the future belongs to those who embrace challenges, adapt with tenacity, and keep pushing forward. Keep growing, keep pivoting, and most importantly, stay tenacious in your pursuits. Thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to bringing you more insightful conversations in our upcoming episodes. This is Sonia signing off, but as always, keep chasing your dreams with tenacity.